Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. I'm your host Stu. Unfortunately there's no Bradley today. Unlike the last time I did this, I'm not going to say that he's in prison. There were rumours that he was in Alligator Alcatraz, but they turned out to be nothing. I was quite surprised. It's where he deserves to be, but hey, you can't have everything you want. I'm going to be reviewing two games today, the first of which is called Beyond the Board, which is a mysterious title for a game that does have a quite high element of mystery. And that's because it's about a chess game where the board suddenly falls away and you are in a strange chessboardy kind of world where you have to solve puzzles and take pieces to progress to the next area. And it kind of plays off a little bit like other 3D games that need the use of various angles to see what to do and where you're going. So we're thinking Fez and games like that where the 3D element and rotation is very important. The most recent one that I've played is Humanity, which was it's VR and flat screen. Very good game. Bit of lemmings thrown in. No lemmings in this. This is more of a kind of, you can move along a prescribed path based on your chess piece, and the chess piece that you're playing as is a castle or a rook, however you want to call it. So you can only move in straight lines. And you have to press switches, manipulate the environment, you have to adhere to time limits, you have to defeat other enemy pieces, and this has to be done using, again, the environment and the timers. And yeah, it's really clever. It's not really my sort of thing. As I've said many times, I don't like cerebral games. I would like to think, just as an aside, I'd like to think I'm fairly intelligent. I'm an intelligent person. Intelligent enough, anyway. I really don't find I like it in my gaming time. I get very frustrated very quickly when I'm trying to live out something that's completely separate from real world and real life. The only kind of tasks I want to complete in a game are kind of skill based, because there's very few opportunities in my real life to apply any real skill. Life can be so repetitive. It's so many things that you have to do that are just using the vacuum or getting on the bus or phoning your mum. And there's so much of that stuff, or where you're passively observing TV or films, And when I'm playing games, I just want to be doing something that requires some skill and dexterity in the game. And I totally understand people wanting to play games that stretch your mind and make you use your imagination and use your thought processes and cognitively challenge you. But it just isn't for me, really. That said, this game is exceptionally well done for a small little indie game. It's very good looking, incredibly clean lines, very simplistic, has that monochrome chess feel that you would expect and want, and the odd splash of colour that has impact. It's just very cleverly done, cleverly, intelligently laid out. And if you like this sort of 3D space puzzle where you really have to stretch your limits to work out what has to be done and in what order, it's highly recommended. There's an important point to be made about reviewing and critiquing games that aren't in your wheelhouse. And it really comes to the fore this week, because the second game I've been playing is not in my wheelhouse at all. And that's called WUCHANG Fallen Feathers. Why is it not in my wheelhouse? Well, it's a Souls-like, and I really don't click with these games. Now, when a game is good, but you don't like the genre, if you've played games for as long as I have, so, 45 years, you have an appreciation of them. You have an appreciation of what's being done. And the appreciation of it allows you to be critical. As long as you engage your critical faculties, you can understand the quality of a game, whether that's poor quality or high quality. It's very important because you should be able to have that distinction. You should have critical analysis of something that is good or bad. It's very, very important. It's a useful skill to have in the real world. You should be able to determine what you think is bad because you don't like it, and what is bad because it is bad. And we know we all have a lot of frustration when we read criticism of things that we enjoy, and it drags it down it can drag it down in the public eye and make something that deserves a much better reputation. It drags it down. So yeah, lecture series over, TED Talk finished. What's WUCHANG Fallen Feathers like? Well, it's set in the Qing dynasty, I believe, of China's history. And it starts off in a mysterious way, in the way that a lot of these Dark Souls style games do, where you don't really know much about what's happened, only that you have started to develop these feathers on your arm, and you're told that this is an invasive thing where it will take over you, and there's no cure for this, and you will be attacked on sight by people because it's also communicable. So it's a very good premise. I like that premise. You set off into the world, which is very nicely rendered. It's a very big, expansive, lush environment with lots of hills, trees, waterfalls. Reminds me a tad of Onimusha, but obviously with much better graphics. And you do very Souls-like things. You select what sort of style of weapon and which armour and things that you want, although you don't get to select your character or do any development on that. So it's much more like Sekiro in that respect. And unlike Sekiro, it's styled very much like Dark Souls in that the attacks are slow, even the quicker ones. They're slow, they're more realistic. There's a stamina bar on how much you can dash, how much you can defend, all of that. Absolutely as you'd expect from a Souls-like. And what sort of marks it out a little is that you have a special move which is based upon the feathers incursion into your body. And I've not got massively far in the game, but I've got far enough to see that that develops and you get control over that, and it will become a very important factor. So you've always got your standard attack moves, of which there are various speeds, and damage and DPS that they do. But you also have this special move, which is a nice addition because it kind of marks the game out, and it feels like a very Chinese game. It's steeped in the country's history. It feels completely distinct from a Western game in the way that it looks and styled, and what's considered frightening and what's considered thrilling and exciting, which is great. I like it when you take that aesthetic and you really make that a core feature of the game. Dark Souls is this very sort of Japanese look at medieval Europe, and this is a very internally Chinese look at a Chinese period in time, infused with this Souls-like gameplay. Very, very impressed. I don't enjoy these kinds of games. I really don't. I get immensely frustrated by being restricted in what you can do. The whole stamina concept is alien to me. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's a great thing that loads of people love. It just doesn't click with me, I would much rather be playing a Ninja Gaiden or a Devil May Cry or something that gives you that level of control in that way and that isn't punishingly hard. And, like most Souls-likes, this is very, very difficult. Any enemy can kill you. They're not it's just if you keep your guard down, if you're not paying attention, you can just get wiped out by the equivalent of a fluffy bunny rabbit. It's very, very Souls-like. But it does it really, really well. I'm not sure if because I haven't played that many of them, I can't really comment on whether it does lots of things very differently. But on the flip side of that, I can say because I haven't played many of them, it feels very familiar and therefore might not have a lot of variety or difference from the others. I don't know. You'd have to play for yourself. It's on Game Pass if you have that, so you can play it immediately if you've got that for no extra charge. And I would say that, based on what I've played, it's worth it. Again, Sekiro was probably my favourite of the ones that I've played. For the record, I've played Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro of these games. and it feels most like Dark Souls from what I've played of it. It doesn't have the speed of Sekiro. It doesn't have I'd say the sort of breadth and width of Bloodborne, which felt like you could quite intelligently exclude some areas and run past some enemies once you started to get to know the environment a bit. And then it has choke points, obviously. Call me out if I'm talking bollocks, by the way. I didn't play Bloodborne all that much. But I mean, that's how Bloodborne felt to me. Whereas this feels like Dark Souls in that, it's a bit more linear. There are different paths, but they often just turn out to be, oh yeah, no, that'll come to the fore in the future. This is even more linear than that, to the point where I've played, in that there are kind of little side bits that you can walk into, but they don't feel like they're going to lead anywhere, and it's really kind of a critical path thing. I suppose it might expand outwards later. Anyway, I'd say that the USP of this is the visuals, which are very nice, and that's a terrible descriptor. I shouldn't do better. I'd say that the visuals are beautifully drawn and presented. Maybe sort of lack a little bit of animation in some sectors. It could be considered a little bit static at points, but it's nicely done. I like the lighting. I like the saturation of the colours. It has a very vibrant feel, which is quite uncommon for these games, I'd imagine. And it's setting itself aside a little bit for that, although it might be a little bit more like Black Myth Wukong, I suppose. Although I've not played that. So I'm just rambling on now. On the negatives, I've come across a couple. On the PS5 and where I've been playing it, there's some occasional poor frame rate. Not often, but I don't know. I've not got to points where there are tons of enemies on screen yet, and I guess that might make it chug a little bit. So the game engine's not perfect in that regard. And I have got stuck in spaces. So I've been manoeuvring around an enemy and got into a certain part of the level and got not stuck on the environment, but I've got blocked in and I can't get past an enemy. So you can't you normally set it so that, if an enemy has blocked you into a corner, you can partially clip through them if you use whatever evasive maneuver you have. I've had sections where that doesn't work and I've just got stuck and I've been killed. And getting killed in a game like this is a big deal because obviously there's huge backtracking to do and loss of experience and stuff. So that's frustrating. But hopefully that should be patched out, and it's not a big deal. It doesn't happen all the time. Anyway, yeah. So an unusual one for me. One that I think will probably have quite a lot of popularity for a single AAA game, whatever it is. And the fact that you can check it out on Game Pass, if you have that, is a very big bonus for you. So if you're into Souls-likes, definitely give this one a twirl, see what you think. So with this episode being a solo show, it might be a good time to ask, how would you like the podcast to carry on? In what form and what duration? So at the moment, we tend to cover games and we talk about the world at large, but we kind of keep that on a down low a little bit just because it's a difficult world sometimes and we want as much escapism as possible. But what would you like? Would you like us to talk about more games? Would you like us to talk about a great many more older games? So go through our backlog really and talk about what we like. Would you like us to talk about the gaming world in general more? Would you like us to spend more time on a game or a shorter amount of time? Basically, what is it that you would really like to hear from the podcast? Because we're open to pretty much anything, really, as long as it doesn't compromise our values, such as they are. Anyway, yeah, have a think about it. And please do contact us on Blue Sky or directly on the website if you have something you'd like to say. We'd be really glad to listen to you and potentially talk to you about it and implement any changes and ideas you might have, because change is good. Right, we're going to leave it there. Sorry there was no Brad this week, but life, you know what it's like. And as usual, stay out of trouble. No, I'm not going Robocop on your ass this time. As usual, follow us on all the socials, check out the website for extra content. Make sure you join us on Discord if you want to chat. And apart from that, until next week, stay safe and stay sane.